Hi, my name's Penny, and today I wanted to talk about some of the hidden gems in my favorite genre, which is, of course, fantasy. So, this is a top 5 Wednesdays prompt, and I'll leave the details of that group down below. It's probably also worth mentioning that a lot of the books I'm going to talk about today I also mentioned in my favorite fantasy books video about a week ago. So, if you find these books interesting, you might want to check that video out for some more fantasy books. This time I'm going to limit myself to the top 5 books that I don't really hear many people talking about, but that I really enjoy. So number 5 is Geist, or the Book of the Order series by Philippa Ballantine. Philippa Ballantine is a New Zealand author, although she currently lives in the States. So this series follows a woman called Sorsha, who is part of the Order that protects the world from evil creatures coming through from the other side, such as geists or wraiths or spectres. And these incursions have been becoming more and more violent and requiring more and more effort to send them back. And throughout the series, we investigate why, and the magic gets darker and darker. And Sorsha, in fact, learns quite a lot about herself in the process. We also have a man called Reed who has been cursed to turn into a lion-type creature whenever he gets angry, unless he's over running water. So at the beginning of this series, he is out at sea, essentially exiled. And there's also a whole bunch of political conspiracy and drama happening in the royals in this world. I really enjoyed how fast-paced these books are, and also how interesting the magic system got, and how all the different threads fit together into the mystery that's going on. But I've never seen anybody on BookTube talk about these books, so they're definitely a hidden gem. Number 4 is The White Cat, or I think it's called the Curse Workers series, by Holly Black. So Holly Black's really popular on BookTube, or some of her books are, but this series I've never seen anyone talk about it, even though it's really great. So in this world you have curse workers who have particular magical abilities. Each curse worker will have a particular ability. And curse workers legally have to wear gloves in order to stop their magic from working, because most magic is done through your hands or through physical touch. Our main character Castle is part of this crime family, although he is the only one who doesn't have magical powers, and he's trying really hard to live a normal life, but his family is not, and it causes him quite a lot of trouble. They tend to wear gloves that have holes in them so that they can still use their magical powers while appearing not to be able to. And I just thought that that magical system was really interesting, as well as the mystery that unfolds throughout this trilogy was amazing. I really didn't see certain things coming, and I really enjoyed it. Plus, I actually think the covers are particularly beautiful. I bought this, I just did a video previously about cover buys, and I probably should have included this, because this fits into that have a cash on it category of cover buys. Although it's true, the fact that it was a Holly Black book also had quite a big impact on my decision to buy it. And also, I think the fact that it only cost $2 at a book fair, so that was a win. And actually, while I'm here, I'll show you the other two covers for the, since I'm talking about covers, I'll show you the other two covers. So the next book was Red Glove, and then you have Black Heart, and they're just kind of beautiful. Although one kind of screw up is I bought these online, and I thought, yes, I've bought the matching covers. You can maybe tell, maybe not, because perspective changes it quite a lot, but they're the wrong size. Oh well. Oh yeah, you can definitely see, it's hard to point, on my shelf. So this one here is White Cat. It's quite a lot bigger than the next two. But oh well, not the end of the world. At least they match in style. So number 3 is actually 2 series, and that is the Saga of the Exiles, which this is an omnibus of 2 of the books from that trilogy, and also the Galactic Maloo trilogy. Why I combine them is that they, one's set in the past and one's set in the future, but there's a little bit of time travel, so the 2 stories affect each other to some degree. So these trilogies are quite old, which is probably why a lot of BookTube people don't talk about them, because I actually don't know, I don't watch that many older booktubers, so if you're an older booktuber, like I'm actually an older booktuber, let me know and I'll check out your videos. The Saga of the Exiles follows these criminals who've been sent back in time through this rift in time, back to the Pliocene era. They're like, oh well, we don't really know what to do with you, we'll send you back into the wilderness where there's no people, you won't be able to hurt anyone, and we'll just forget about you. And you can live the rest of your life, but you'll have to live it off in the wilderness. But as it happens, when they go back in time, they discover that there's this whole other alien civilization there, and a whole bunch of craziness happens. The Galactic Maloof trilogy, which is set in the future, follows a bunch of people who are starting to develop psychic abilities, and there's a murder mystery going on, and some of the characters in that series end up being criminals that get sent back in time to the previous book. So it's a big circle, but it's actually amazing, and I am definitely planning to do a reread of this series at some point once I get all my other series in progress under control. And number 2 is, I think, called the Beldame Apocrypha trilogy. I've shown it before. The first book is called God's War, but I thought this time I would show you a different book in the trilogy, which is Infidel. I think this one really shows kind of the bugs that are in this story. There's a lot of giant bugs and bug technology and icky stuff like that in this world. And we basically follow Nyx, who is an assassin. She used to be part of the Royal Assassins, the Beldames, but because she always screws everything up, she's no longer in that group, and she's now running kind of an illegal gang that takes bounties or does other things. She's herself beaten up a lot, she gets in a lot of bad situations, but she does also get involved in some political conspiracy where she does some really important things. And she also really cares about the people that get on her team, and through those relationships quite a lot of excitement happens as well. It's another series that just has really good action, but also really interesting characters and relationships. And again, I just have never really seen anybody on BookTube talking about these, but I think they're amazing, and I think you should read them, especially if you think bug-based fantasy, science fiction sounds interesting. Alright, so the number 1 hidden gem in fantasy that I'm going to talk about is probably not a surprise if you've watched some of my other videos, and that is the Kate Daniels series by Ilona Andrews. So I talk about this series a lot because it is my favorite series. Kate Daniels is a mercenary who lives in this world where magic has started to come back. There's a balance between technology and magic, and for a long time technology has been ascendant, but now magic is starting to come back, but they kind of go back and forth. So sometimes magic works, sometimes technology works, sometimes magic doesn't work, and sometimes technology does, which makes for a really interesting world. She brings in all sorts of different mythologies. There's now gods and witches and all sorts of creatures just appearing out of nowhere. A lot of the neighborhoods have been completely changed by magic. The world is just a much more dangerous place, as well as the fact that technology is no longer reliable, so you can't really protect yourself just with technology. And there's a lot of different interesting takes on paranormal creatures in this book. So one of them is that there's vampires, but the vampires are controlled by necromancers. And I think there's also quite good humor in this book series. So one example is, because the vampires don't do well in the sun, later on the necromancers start putting zinc on their vampires, but fluorescent colored zinc. So there's these horrible, like, inhuman vampire creatures that have like fluorescent zinc all over them, but the necromancers are very serious despite the fact that this is what the monsters they control look like. And Kate herself gets involved with the shapeshifter clans, and they're quite a rowdy bunch, like what you would expect half animal people to be. And just generally it's a great world with great characters and great character development, but also fast-paced, really good writing, and I cannot recommend this series enough, even though I think I saw one booktuber talk about these books once. I think a lot of people are probably put off by the fact that they're technically paranormal romance and they look a little bit cheesy, I guess they're definitely adult books as well because there are sex scenes, so that's something to be aware of, although they're not particularly graphic sex scenes, so probably some of the violence is more graphic, but not too bad. But if you have read the Kate Daniels series, I would love to talk to you about the series, so please hit me down in my comments. I'd love to know what other fantasy books you think aren't talked about enough, because it is true that on BookTube people tend to talk about the same books often, which isn't always a bad thing because you hear lots of different perspectives before you make a decision about what you might want to read. Or also you can find people who've read similar things to you that you can talk to about, but it does mean that sometimes it's hard to find new books that you haven't heard about. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.